Welcome back to another episode of the Gifted Performance Podcast. If you haven't already, make sure to like the video and subscribe for future content. For more information about our one-on-one coaching and other training or nutrition options, visit giftedperformance.com. Our newest feature, the Gifted Express, offers premium programming for bodybuilders, powerlifters, Olympic weightlifters, and lifestyle clients for only $30 a month. Enjoy the video, we'll see you on the next one, and as always, stay gifted. Ho, ho, ho. Welcome back to another episode of the GPP. It's November, so that means it's Christmas season, and you can comment below if that pisses you off. We're still gonna bring you the knowledge and practical takeaways to improve your own general physical preparedness. Q&A episode. We are missing Jason, so we brought in A Plaza. Anthony, how does it feel to be here? Are you nervous? Do you even have the energy to be nervous anymore? Anthony is 6 weeks out from national.
He's 5.5. 5.5.
5.5. Yeah, big difference there.
5.5. 5.5 weeks of, well, no, like 4.5 weeks of suffering left. Can you make it? Can he do it?
No.
By the time this episode comes out, Anthony will have passed away.
I won't make it.
God forbid. What?
Anthony's already getting questions.
This is like not the time to joke
like,
about that.
Hey, man.
Yeah.
Victor Richards Anthony's not 290 pounds and 48 years old, so I think he's
definitely not 290 pounds.
Definitely not.
Definitely
but
not.
One day, right?
Maybe.
A 290-pound Anthony, I don't think is a good look for you, man. I don't think that's
it's never a bad time to joke about death.
On the 700-pound life, the 400-pound life.
And it's just me and Maria taking care of you. It's me rolling you in and out of bed, and Maria's like cleaning out your fat folds.
Oh my God.
It takes a team. It takes a team.
That's
All right,
disgusting.
let's answer some questions today. Our first question comes from Sheena Sheffield. Sheenaweenah, one of my favorite Instagram names. That's her Instagram name.
Oh,
so I got her application when we first started working together, and it was like Instagram Sheenaweenah. Accept application immediately. I already love this person. I don't know anything about them. But Sheena asks, what is everyone's obsession with growth hormone? So not only, I think when we first read this question, we were thinking like exogenous use of growth hormone, which I think some people are obsessed with. But there's also an obsession around growth hormone with like the intermittent fasting people. They're like, oh, if you fast, growth hormone increases by X%. Thus, fasting is, good for boosting growth hormone. So when you guys look out into the fitness stratosphere, do you see this obsession with growth hormone? And what do you think is at the root of that?
it's in the name.
Hormone?
It's in the name. It's got to make you huge, dude. It's called growth hormone.
That was always funny. People were like, when like Barry Bonds and McGuire were like cranking home runs left and right, they were like, oh, it's all the growth hormone they're taking. Really? It's not the anabolic steroids that they're taking? It's the growth hormone? Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Well, growth hormone is like super expensive, so people think it's the better stuff.
Oh, that's true.
So,
It's not as expensive as it used to be.
depends on who you're talking
But
to.
Relatively expensive still. In the realm
Depends
of
on
PEDs.
what doctor's prescribing it for you, because that's the only way you should be using it.
Yes. I like where this guy's going. By the books. So what are some of the mechanisms by which growth hormone works in the body, and some things like reasons why people may be obsessed with it? You hear all sorts of claims, it can keep your body fat lower, it can, improve skeletal muscle growth, it helps with injury recovery, things like that. Are these the reasons why people are so obsessed and seeking it out as an enhancement or from the doctor?
Yes.
Yeah. It's a little poorly understood, though, I think. So growth hormones sort of acute role is in like substrate utilization, right? So acutely, it liberates some fat, it spares protein, and then a little later down the chain, it's spliced into a variety of growth factors that have like a lot of different roles in different tissue throughout the body. So like people who I guess don't know much about growth hormone, because there's a lot of myth around it, right? Like, growth hormone, it can keep you shredded, it'll make you huge, and things that are a little I don't know, what is it, like, things that are overstated, I guess.
The growth hormone can make you huge. It's one that I think people really, really misunderstand.
Yeah.
Because growth hormone itself, to my knowledge, plays no role in skeletal muscle protein synthesis. It's the downstream family that IGF and super family of GH that are actually contributing to muscle growth, correct?
Yeah, I mean, there's an aspect of also maybe addressing like protein breakdown and decreasing that. But yeah, I think most of muscle tissue does have like growth hormone receptors, but a lot of the potential anabolic effects do come back down to like IGF-1, mechanogrowth factor. And there are also even just a bunch of other growth factors that like nobody talks about, or a lot of people probably don't even know about, you know?
Yeah, I like to tell people growth hormone makes very baby-sized muscles, and anabolics mature them.
Yeah, I can dig that.
So,
sorry, excuse me.
I think also where a lot of I guess the allure comes from is that it sort of seems like growth hormone became a bigger deal in bodybuilding around the time that bodybuilders sort of just really escalated in body weight.
Could you say that correlated with the AIDS pandemic too? Because they started prescribing growth hormone for a lot of AIDS patients. Oh. And a lot of AIDS patients realized how much they could sell their growth hormone for and stopped taking their medication because they could sell it for so much.
Yeah.
Fun fact of the day.
That's a great fun fact. Make that the clip right there. What did we talk about on this week's podcast? AIDS and growth hormone sales. Entrepreneurial spirit right there.
I mean, just like vets selling.
It's definitely a thing.
Vets were selling trend cartridges for a long time.
Yeah.
The pellets. Finaplex.
Yep.
Yeah.
What about the negative sides of growth hormone?
Well, insulin resistance for one.
Yeah, I think people talk a lot about, the positive sides of that, the possible muscle growth, repair of connective tissue, and all of those are, in a therapeutic dose, really going to benefit. But when you start to exit those therapeutic and you enter the performance dosages, yeah, you can run into insulin resistance. What else?
Well, I would say you have to be careful with just elevating IGF-1 in general. It's not selective to just muscle. Yeah, it can grow anything. Cancerous cells. Cancer pretty much grows off of IGF-1. That's why IGF-1 inhibitors are huge in cancer therapy.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's like a big one. The insulin resistance is a funny one. Because some people experience it, some people don't. Carpal tunnel is a huge one because of aldosterone increases. You'll have a lot of water retention, and then you'll deal with some nerves that are getting compressed by that.
Well, that can have an impact also on cardiovascular health and
because every time you administer growth hormone, you have an aldosterone spike for almost 7 days.
Wow. So I think that's the thing too. I guess as we talk about these side effects, letting people know that it's also like dose dependent, right?
Oh yeah.
Which is a given, but a lot of people don't consider that. They're just like, oh, somebody said that they're taking growth hormone. Let me,
with that
Yeah.
spike in aldosterone and spike in water retention, would you also see a potential increase in blood pressure? So
I could see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So someone's gonna be higher blood pressure for longer.
No, always whenever water retention or
Paul, put your mic
blood
closer to your face. No one can even hear your beautiful voice.
Really? Oh, yeah. I mean, anytime there's an increase of water retention or like blood plasma, that's always a risk, is the burden on your cardiovascular system, increase in blood pressure, kidneys, things like that.
And then I'd say the cancer thing is way more prominent in direct IGF use compared to growth hormone use, but it still exists.
Yeah, that's one I'm not super clear on. I mean, I haven't looked into a ton of like cancer research. I know that there is a relationship and that lowering IGF-1
Lowers rate of growth.
Lowers rate of growth. I don't know about growth hormone or IGF-1 necessarily.
Well, I would think with any exogenous use of growth hormone, your body's going to hit a feedback loop threshold to where it's going to say enough. Like, you can only supply so much, so only so much is going to come out.
Yeah.
You know, as if you were directly using IGF-1, it would be different because there's no conversion to that growth factor now. You're just putting that growth factor directly.
Yeah, I'd be curious on what the like blood concentration of those of IGF-1 is in those individuals. Like, is it people in a disease state where like they have some astronomical number, you know, that would be hard to even get with like a standard typical bolus of growth hormone? Or is it something in the realm of like that, something that can be produced from bodybuilding, you know, standard bodybuilding usage?
Now, exiting the world or exiting the realm of exogenous use of growth hormone, what do you make of the hubbub surrounding kind of lifestyle factors that increase growth hormone levels? So intermittent fasting,
Garbage.
You know, certain resistance training protocols that are going to increase serum growth hormone more than others. Are these elevations something that we should care about? Because the NSCA textbook still to this day talks about if you want to train in a way that increases growth hormone, you know, you want to choose compound movements, you want to choose higher intensities, higher volumes, and that's how you get your growth hormone to go up by 300, 500%. And on paper, you're like, oh my God, 300, 500%. That's massive. But Paul, you said it's garbage. Why?
Well, 300% of a really small number is still fucking nothing. It really doesn't matter when it's a really tiny number. But also, like, yeah, it says that stuff in textbooks, but I think largely just because people have to know that there is data showing some kind of increase, you know, with certain styles of training or whatever. But some of that data has issues too, right? Like some early data, I'm not going to say all of the data, but I know some of the data, like if you don't control for fluid shifts, because fluid shifts when we train, you know, it goes into working tissues, you lose some blood plasma. Like, so sometimes those increases can be like artificial, right? The concentration goes up because there's less blood plasma.
Like too fast muscle biopsy. Like you're not letting
like measuring blood levels. Yeah,
I can see that.
And so, things like that occur, but also just a lot of times, like when bodybuilders typically use, you know, PEDs, they're using super physiological doses, and a lot of times within the realm of physiological increases. I'm not saying physiological increases can't ever be helpful, but a lot of times they just don't seem to be, or the improvement is negligible. You know, like taking somebody from a 500 nanograms of deciliter of testosterone to 600, 700, 800 probably doesn't cause a great impact. Maybe taking somebody from 300 to 800 or 300 to 1,000 does. But yeah.
When I look at those,
quick thing.
Go.
And then the intermittent fasting stuff, like, well, one, you already sort of mentioned that growth hormone just isn't all that anabolic to muscle, at least not within the physiological range, and probably also not without being paired with anabolic androgenic steroids and stuff. But the problem is people are sort of, they're like, okay, well, so there's that whole flaw. And then they're like, if I don't eat, I'll get a big increase in growth hormone. It's like, okay, well, what do you need to grow? Food. right? So like that's the big thing that brings me back to the original thing I said, where growth hormones, like a cute role, is in substrate utilization, just to help you in times where you don't have your food is absent, freeing fatty acids to use as fuel and sparing your protein in general.
We're going to play a game. We're going to go around the bend, and we're going to say the stupidest thing that we can possibly think of. I'll start. Fasting is anabolic. Do I win?
I think you
I
win.
win.
You win.
Growth hormone elevations from training and fasting, I also see as issues of area under the curve. It's the fucking training to failure conversation all over again. It's people looking at a very high magnitude instead of looking at area under the curve. People see a big spike and they're like, oh, sweet, like big spike, that must mean good. But with something like growth hormone, a big spike and then a precipitous drop off is inconsequential, because what happens with growth hormone is you need it elevated, and then you need it to stay elevated for a significant period of time for it to exert its effects.
See, and I'll piggyback off that. I know we're not getting into this, but I think that's where the training to failure thing doesn't come into context with volume, because it's, in my opinion, from a physiological standpoint, from a cellular standpoint, the longer a cell is signaled for duration, the better the stimulus is going to be. If that doesn't scream more volume or adequate volume, that's where I have an issue with it.
Damn, dude. We just took this and now we got to talk about failure for the next
next question. But that's just my take on it.
No, it's 100% correct.
Like even with growth hormone, like the longer duration we have an expression, the better the stimulus, the better the communication between your cells is going to be.
It's the argument against branched chain amino acids too, because when you supplement with branched chain amino acids, you see a very large spike in muscle protein synthesis, but then you see that drop off because it's not enough to sustain that muscle protein synthesis response. It's the equivalent of getting in your car, putting it in drive, slamming your foot down the gas, and then letting go and being like, what the hell? Why isn't my car going 40, 50 miles per hour? So because you have to keep your foot down for it to work. Same thing with growth hormone, same thing with training stimulus, same thing with amino acid, muscle protein synthesis, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, so that's a really good point, because
Thanks.
A lot of people would probably say, well, you're only, to a bodybuilder that is using it, you're only injecting it once a day, 2 times a day, 3 times a day, or whatever. And, within number of hours it's sort of gone. But it's a good point, because you don't grow significant amounts of muscle in short periods of time, right? It takes a lot of time. But the thing about supraphysiological doses is that you get a large spike in IGF-1 binding proteins. And so you take that now super physiological dose of IGF-1 that is also now hopefully in your blood from the growth hormone dose, and you extend the half-life of IGF-1. I can't remember if it's like 30 minutes or a couple hours or something like that. You extend it now to 16 to 36 hours, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. It can range. And so, yeah, that's why exogenous growth hormone becomes a lot more useful than trying to fuck around with your own endogenous growth hormone. You get that long, steady release of IGF-1 over a long period of time.
Anthony, I don't want to leave you out. Do you have anything to add before we move on to the next question, other than that you're just the most handsome fella I ever did see?
Is it my sunken in face?
It's just that you're my favorite son, and everyone knows it, and they're not afraid to show it.
Yeah, let's put that out there.
All right, let's hit our next question here, and I'm coming to Anthony first. He can't run for too long. Next question comes from Sean Little, one of my favorite Instagram names out there, at whatitdo17. Love it, Sean. Don't ever change that Instagram name. He says, which supplements are timing specific? So, Anthony, right off the top of your head, what would you say are supplements that are timing specific, or at least have some sort of timing element to them?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of supplements like pre-workout, for example.
Yeah, don't want to take that before bed.
No. I don't think things like whey protein matter timing-wise. I don't
Probably
think things like creatine matter timing-wise.
Well, I'll let you go.
I mean,
probably-
I prefer to take it. I prefer to take it before my workout, but if I take it in the morning, like it's not going to affect my lift 6 hours later, instead of taking it, 30 minutes before my lift. Baby aspirin. Take that before you work out. Take that in the morning.
Okay. When do you
So-
take your Viagra?
10 minutes pre-workout.
10 minutes pre-workout, yeah.
He smashes it up in his intro workout and
Fucking
just
don't-
drinks it through the
Doesn't
whole
make it to
thing.
the gym.
Ethan.
I don't know. I couldn't make it to the gym today. I was stuck at home for 5 hours.
I had to call my doctor because it lasted more than 4 hours. Ethan's backstage at his qualifier show, and he goes, "I just want you to know I'm backstage and I have Viagra, so I'm ready." You're ready for what? What are you ready for?
Yeah.
He's ready for that pump.
So one thing that I will say on creatine is that there is some research showing that absorption percentages, I think it is, can be actually dulled by caffeine intake. So taking creatine with caffeine can affect absorption. But I am somewhat in the camp of creatine is one of those things you can probably take any time of the day. Paul, don't get mad. Don't yell, dude. I can see you're getting upset.
You can take
I mean,
it any
I'm-
time of the day because it doesn't do anything. No, I'm kidding. Because
I'm drinking my creatine with my coffee as we speak, so I'm doing it all wrong. Don't
What
listen to
kind
me.
of asshole?
I haven't taken creatine in God knows how long.
So one
And
thing,
look how great you're doing.
one thing that I do want to talk about here is like the difference between like pre-workout and intro workout, and if timing really matters there. Because a lot of people, they'll take their pre-workout supplements and mix it with their intro workout, and then either drink all of that before training or drink all of it during training.
Well, is it really an intro workout if they drink it before they train?
I don't know. It has intro workout ingredients in it, I guess.
So like
There
dextrose.
are probably some things to consider, but I mean, a lot of times when you consume something, right, it can take some time to get in the blood, and it can remain in the blood for several hours. So timing, whether I think it probably isn't that important when it comes to pre-workouts and intra workouts. How you do it, as long as it's somewhere in that window and you're getting whatever perceived benefit you think you're getting out of it or whatever. I mean, there is a thing with caffeine. Like, I believe there is some research showing that if you want the maximum benefit, ergogenic benefit aid from caffeine, that you would consume it about an hour pre-workout. But I mean, dude, I slam my pre-workout and I feel it 3 minutes later. I'm like, oh God, I have to go take a shit. I'm about to fucking kick some doors down. But I think, even protein, the timing for some things matters more than others. Like, do you have to have protein immediately post workout? No, but you probably shouldn't wait 6 hours to get your protein, right? So,
Yeah. There's some supplements though, like IP6 and acetol mixed together. You have to take that on an empty stomach. You lose pretty much all absorption if you don't.
Familiarize
so
the people
like
with what you're talking
yohimbine
about
would
there.
be another
that was
one.
that you just threw some advanced letters down there, Dom. You gotta
IP6 it's a supplement that helps, it's a natural immune supplement. It helps with cell toxicity.
There's some stuff with insulin sensitivity in IP6.
Yeah.
Or am I wrong?
Yeah, and then it also has a phlebitic effect. Like, it can lower hematocrit, it can lower hemoglobin. I take it for that reason. But the way we digest it, it cannot be with other foods, because if it's taken with food and there's iron present in the food, the iron will stop it from absorbing. So it's always,
There are a lot of minerals
there's a
like
lot
that
of minerals
too.
like that.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things you shouldn't take together, and then there's some things that you should take empty stomach, like yohimbine, because if you eat and you have elevated insulin levels. Insulin competes for the receptor and wins. So yohimbion's really not that effective at that point. And yohimbion insulin just stops any kind of lipolysis there is. So
if you're taking,
I wouldn't say stops.
And
Like,
it slows down.
Dulls, maybe.
Yeah. If you are taking a multivitamin, you want to make sure that you're taking that with some food that contains some fat in it for your fat soluble vitamins there.
Yeah. So, vitamin D3. That's one a lot of people take
mainly
wrong.
vitamin D.
They take it in the morning. You should be taking vitamin D3 before bed with fats because your osteoblasts and osteoclasts, all your bone reformation happens while you're sleeping. So if you want to promote and help that the most, you take your vitamin D3 before bed. You should be taking vitamin K2, MK7, and MK4 with it to even help more your body's bone reformation.
Couldn't you
Well,
make the
I think we
argument
have to
that
also
because
remember-
vitamin D is a fat soluble vitamin, the body is going to be able to store some of it, and timing probably doesn't matter as much?
I would say
Yeah,
it
that's what-
supports. I in my opinion, I think it supports more.
My opinion, you're
Yeah.
a piece of shit. You're a fucking idiot. So
Well, Broderick
Yeah.
fucking taught me that. So
No, so yeah, I don't doubt that there's maybe an optimal time to take it, and that time is at nighttime. But when it comes to vitamin D, it's not something that like your blood levels of change rapidly, right? Like if you have really high vitamin D and you get no vitamin D for a couple days, like it takes time to completely deplete a vitamin D. So it's probably still there when you're sleeping if you take it in the morning.
I'm all
I would
about
think.
biohacking. I am biohacking.
this guy is our very own Leo in longevity over here. Paul, I'm very proud of you. You just mentioned not getting vitamin D for a couple days, and you didn't make one joke about not getting D for a couple days. Not a single.
he
Not a single
didn't even
joke was
think
thrown
about
in there.
it.
He's like, "Oh yeah, you can store up D," and I was like, "Oh, here it comes.
I
Here we
just fucked
go."
up.
Oh, like taking red yeast rice before bed is probably better for your cholesterol. Doing your soluble and insoluble fiber before bed is better for your cholesterol.
Dom, will you write a
Interesting.
supplement book for us?
I have, and nobody takes them. Nobody buys them.
Oh my god, people, come on, step it up.
I made it free, and people didn't even fucking download it.
Okay, now we got a problem. If it's free and no one wants it, we got a problem.
Because no
All
one
right, any
cares,
other
dude.
supplements
They
that
just
you can
want the
think
cool
of?
shit. They just want the
You're
cool
not
shit.
wrong. You're not wrong. Any other supplements that are timing specific?
I mean, dude, I
People
could
make
get
a
into a
big-
list of.
People make a big deal about like whey protein versus casein protein.
I was just
fast
about to say that.
digesting, slow digesting. The differences probably wash out over a 24-hour period. But if your strategy is to take casein protein for a more stable amino acid elevation while you sleep,
Magnesium
okay,
chloride's
fine.
a good one to take pre-workout.
I just
Yeah,
take
put that in
casein
my
before I
book.
go to
I
bed
think-
because it makes me feel fuller.
Yeah, that's one
That's
way to
it.
do it. You know what? I have a theory on why casein makes you so full. It's because it tastes so disgusting. Every single
thick.
casein protein powder is
I don't
so
know which
thick
one you're
and
using, man.
so chalky and so gross.
It's
Well,
I
I
use
haven't taken
Dimethize.
casein protein since like 2013, so
Yeah.
maybe the science has evolved.
Well, I use the Dimethize one, and then I don't make a shake out of it. I make it into like a pudding.
Oh,
You just put a little bit of water and then like
God, that
mix
is
it
so
up.
put some
depressing.
muscle egg in there, put some xanthan
man.
gum, a little bit of pumpkin puree, calorie-free Cool Whip, and all of a sudden Anthony's got himself a 3-pound Jello bowl every night before bed. Why does my belly hurt so much?
something I want to like sort of usually there's a commonality, right? In that the more short acting and the more timing dependent something is, like usually the lesser the outcome, right? Like,
Why? But like, think about things like nitroglycerin. Like that would stop a heart attack.
that's what I mean. Is that going to get you huge? Wait, what?
Like that would stop a heart attack if taken properly. But it's a really fast acting drug.
No, I mean in terms of like muscle building
Oh.
potential.
Say,
Yeah,
what
I'm
about,
not
like-
talking
what
about
about, like,
saving a
Narcan?
life. Yeah. Like, don't give them that EpiPen. They're
skip
having
the
like
Narcan.
an allergic
It won't work fast
reaction.
enough. Just let him die.
So test
No,
suspension
yeah.
is not better than test enhanced.
It's not. Are you gonna jab a shot of test suspension every 2 hours all day?
Why not? Why not, brother? So yeah, and we come back to our spike versus stable, the ones that are long-term elevations, again, are working a little bit better or exerting a more powerful, noticeable effect over months and years. All right, on to our next question. This is a question, Anthony, you're not allowed to answer. Paul, you're not allowed to answer. This is only a question for Dom. And we're going to let Dom talk for about 10 minutes straight, and then we're going to move on to the next question. And the question comes from Sam Hansen. Sam asks, what are the benefits of BFR training, specifically for my glutes? I added that second piece in.
You added that.
Just what are the benefits of BFR training?
I'm not answering this question.
What?
I already talked about this many times.
Well, recap what you put on your story, and then I have a funny story.
Okay. I had a client who got hit by a car, and her left leg was immobile, or right leg. I don't know. One of the two. She couldn't train, obviously. So her right leg shrank a bunch. And when she got back into training, she was really scared to push weight on her leg, which is understandable. She got hit by a car. And then we implemented BFR training on her right leg only, not both legs, just her right leg. And we had her do all one-legged stuff. Really high reps, really close to failure, really low weight. So tension was super low because we obviously couldn't. One, psychologically, she was scared to. Two, the type of method for training is you're not using it on heavy loads. You're trying to accumulate a lot of fatigue, a lot of metabolites. So we use it for that. Long story short, it added a bunch of size back on her leg. And I like BFR training for people with injuries because I believe tension with adequate volume is way better for a muscle stimulus. And then Paul taught me something about like high fatigue motor units that like reaching those thresholds you can do with BFR training as well. But putting them on your thighs while doing deadlifts does not help your glutes.
Yeah, I think and what Paul was saying, is Paul frozen? Oh no.
No.
Paul's catatonic. He's not
Just
frozen.
barely alive. Barely hanging on.
And Paul, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think what Paul was insinuating was that the accumulation of metabolites over the sets with BFR is what allows you to tap into those high threshold motor units. It's kind of like a shortcut to that fatigue so that you can then jump to those type 2 high threshold motor units, the ones that actually grow, right?
Yeah. The occlusion keeps blood flow from leaving, or as much blood flow. So those metabolites accumulate. And since you're using a 20 to 30 RM, that could be like a 70 rep max, but that allows you to fatigue faster so that you can reach those high threshold motor units in say 20, 30, maybe sometimes 15 reps, a set or two in.
Yeah. Like we didn't do it with all her training. We just did it on accessory stuff and like leg pressing. We just made all one-legged, and right leg had the band on, left leg didn't. And she would just change weight accordingly, and she responded really well to it. Her leg came back up almost 4 inches.
Damn.
Yeah.
How long?
It was like 20 weeks.
Okay.
It was a good amount of time, but it was like very, very, very noticeable, the difference between the two. Like Clark, for example, he has an 8-inch incision on his lat. And I think it even goes into his teres. So I don't know if there's any BFR training for backs, but I don't even know how you do that. But like, if his injury was on his tricep, like the cut, that could be a good way to get him back into training. Which, fun fact, he has a 1 lung. His SO2 stats are higher than before when he had 2 lungs. And he is breathing treatments the highest he's ever done in his entire life.
Wow.
The body is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Very quickly.
It's pretty crazy.
Hey, doggy. BFR is one of those things that like you guys are saying, it has its place. It definitely has some effect. It absolutely can help you grow muscle, but the mechanisms by which it is causing that muscular growth are no different than kind of, or very similar in kind of what you're arriving at compared to what Dom outlined in his story, which was just kind of like higher load training, close proximity to failure. Like you're still going to get there with that higher load. Some considerations on BFR, some things that I've seen people do wrong is wrapping the cuffs too tight. What Paul said is a good point. Like you're supposed to be occluding venous blood flow, not arterial blood flow. So you still want the arteries to be able to supply blood. You just want to decrease or diminish the amount of venous return. So you are getting a pooling of metabolites in there.
Yeah, I think probably I really dislike when I see people use like knee wraps on their arms and they're like half their bicep is covered by.
I think
like
it has
the
to
knee
be
wrap.
like these bands don't even know what it's
that
called.
Could probably be a consideration.
I could almost convince myself that they don't know what it's called.
That's true. I mean, I did train with somebody once that like used it, and
I started
we were
cranking
talking
that
about
bitch
how
on my
tight the
arm.
band should be, and he was like, "Oh, I don't know. I just saw somebody do it. Somebody wrote it in my program, and so I just wrap my leg as hard as I can." I'm like,
So
"No, it's not how it's supposed to be done."
slingshot wraps, and I just wrap them bitches tight. And there are two places that you want to wrap. There's going to be right underneath the delt into like kind of the armpit area here, not on your arm itself, and then at the hip. You don't want to wrap at the elbow. You do not want to wrap at the knee. The arteries in those areas are a lot more sensitive and easier to occlude. So you're going to notice that's very, very painful. And that's because you're not getting any blood flow there, which is not what you want to do.
I haven't
Does
even
anyone else
actually
have some
seen
funny
somebody in
BFR
person do
stories?
it.
I have two funny BFR stories, like people that I've seen doing it. So I was doing it on my legs one day, and some guy asked me what it was, and I explained it to him.
Oh, so you told him,
And
yeah.
he's like, "Do you think it could help me with my abs?" And I was not a very nice person at the time, so I was like, "Hell yeah, I'm gonna troll this guy." I was like, "Yeah, you wrap one at your sternum, and you wrap the other one like right above your penis. Those are the two spots you want to have it. You want to wrap them bitches tight, and then crunch away."
Yeah.
And what do you know? He went and got his knee wraps, and he wrapped himself up looking like a snowman in the gym.
Yeah. One thing I would probably add, and these aren't hard rules you have to follow.
So not deficit deadlifts
for single joint movements with minimal or lower.
Even the leg press I had or
lower
used was like a
technique
pin
complexity.
loaded one.
Yeah, probably not even really that much leg press.
And also well, like another consideration for these multi-joint movements too is that like you're already creating such a robust like metabolic fatigue aspect that like, do you also want to induce a lot of cardiovascular fatigue because you're going to be doing reps of 20 plus, you know? Like
I've done BFR squats, back squats before, and my legs chafed so bad from the wraps that like the inside of my thighs bled. I was like, okay, nope, don't want to do this anymore. So
I think you used to have me do BFR training with like arms and stuff, but it was usually during a time when it was like you're trying to accumulate like Paul said, get those metabolites without like heavy load. You have a nagging pain or something like in your elbow, and you need to keep the form a little bit more like a rope press down or something like that or overhead rope extension. Put some occlusion bands on if you're getting like nagging pain with the certain load that you're using, but decrease the load and add the bands, and you can get the same stimulus or more. Yeah,
I think you just brought something or reminded me. It's probably best served at the end of your training, right? Like it's not something you want to do early in training because you're going to create so much fatigue. Because like what sort of things cause a lot of central nervous fatigue or nervous system fatigue? You know, really high reps, really short rest breaks. You know, taking things really, really close to failure. So if you do that early in training, you may be setting yourself up to not get very stimulative work after.
Yeah.
I think it was like in a week. It was like in like the last week of my program or something. I just had a really bad like elbow, like epicondylitis going on or something like that. And you were like, yeah, throw a band on there and lighten the load and just add like 5 reps. And
boom.
Yeah.
Easy
Still
peasy.
got nasty pump though.
But I don't think that BFR should make up like the bulk of your training. I don't think like you should go to the gym and be like, all right, this is my BFR leg day, and you just have fucking bands on for everything. And that brings me to my next funny story. I trained at a gym here in Melbourne, and there was a guy here that used to train with BFR bands, and he wouldn't take them off for his entire workout. He would leave them on for like 35, 40 minutes straight and do his entire arm workout.
It's not good. But that's a really important thing for the people listening to consider, is like, why would you make it a bulk of your workout, right? Like, or why would you preferentially do it? It hasn't shown to be better than traditional resistance training yet. It's just shown to be as good, but in short term, and often not populations that are you. So it's sort of one of those things where it's like, it has its place, but just make sure it fits, you know, like if you're in a crunch and you need to get your arm training in really fast, not the worst idea. There are other tools that you can use, but if you're injured or something, for sure.
Maria talks about using it.
It's more like a sauce.
Yeah.
More like a
Maria
condiment.
talks about using it in PT. Physical therapy. Yeah.
It's gotten so big in PT. I attended a talk where they even, if I'm not mistaken, it was several years ago, where they had like soldiers that had like literally were missing like pieces of their leg and muscle and stuff, and they would occlude their leg even without resistance training for a certain period of time until they could do resistance training with them, and it caused some benefit. Even without the resistance training. But yeah, I mean, we just have to consider too that the way that these things function and the research that has been done, like it hasn't necessarily shown to be like because one of the biggest limitations in research generally is how short research is, right? 8 weeks, 12 weeks, 16 weeks, or whatever, and that's a rarity to see a training study for 16 weeks long. So like, we don't know that, hey, like this could be something that does like work and work well, but maybe for only like 4 weeks, 8 weeks, right? You know, because the thing about using training that creates a robust metabolic fatigue component or accumulation component is that you get better at dealing with those metabolites and clearing them.
Is all the way up here.
Yeah.
The inferior is all the way in here. You cannot occlude these to help your butt. This is what you occlude. Dude, I don't even know how you would do that.
Well, I mean,
I don't even know how.
Maybe that's because you're not serious enough about your training. If you really wrap tight in that area,
I guess this would be important to bring up that I told you guys, and it's a flawed sort of extrapolation to try to transfer it to sumo deadlifts or whatever. But there is some research showing that if you occlude the arms, that the triceps then fatigue more rapidly, making the chest have to work harder. But the thing is, the movement that you're doing that on, the muscle that you want to get the benefit has to be a prime mover, right? It can't share moving the load with a shit ton of other muscles.
I don't see that being the case in like the bench press, like occluding the arms to fatigue the triceps, because there are portions of the movement that are very tricep heavy, and there are portions of the movement that are very pec heavy. If you occlude the arms, you like just wouldn't be able. You would get the weight off your chest, but like just not be able to lock it out because your triceps are so fatigued. It seems like it would make the movement really strange.
Potentially, I don't know. I've never done it. I just know that that's an aspect of research that's been looked at. It sounds completely silly to me. I would never put that in my own training. But
or like doing like pull-ups with your arms occluded so that your biceps fatigue.
Yeah. Well, and here's another thing too, is that, the sumo deadlift is a bad extrapolation from that, because your glutes aren't necessarily even in the best position to be the most active. Like your glute max would probably, like stiff leg deadlift might be a better option, but I don't know. It seems like a very poor transfer.
That's just a poor application, start to finish. BFR banding a sumo deadlift to get more glute activation. It's just it starts bad and it gets worse as you go along, and as you add in the layers, it just gets worse and worse and worse. All right, let's hit this last question here. It comes from Mr. Gilbert at matt.gilbert90. Matt asks, what's one thing you wish you knew before you started lifting?
Mine is that machines are very effective.
Kick us off. I know what mine is, but I'm going to save mine.
Yeah, I wish I started with the Smith.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. I was a Smith machine hater. What else?
That if I had put the amount of time that I put into this, into anything else, I'd probably be a billionaire right now.
There you go. That's a good one. Go do something else with your life. Anthony?
Let's see. When I started lifting, I was 11, and it's for wrestling. So I think I would have liked, if I could go back in time, I think I would have trained with a little bit more technique, a little bit better technique, and maybe focus more on that instead of like just moving it from point A to point B.
I wish somebody had told me how easy bodybuilding was, right? In terms of like, you eat your food, you get your sleep, you lift your weights, and then you don't think about it the rest of the fucking day. You get your sleep. Yeah, I said that. So yeah, and that's it, man. I think a lot of people just don't treat it that way until they burn themselves out. They have to learn that the hard way.
Like, you can do those. It's okay. I promise to God, everything's going to be fine. But like, that's like one of the things like,
it is not.
Ian Valier was talking about on Fuad's podcast. They were talking about like how, looking back at everything, they wish they didn't take it as neurotic, as regimented, because like, he's like, yeah, there'd be times Melissa would be like, do you want to go shop? Do you want to go do this? And then he would be getting anxious about, I got to pack my meals and bring them with me. But like, now he's like, yeah, it's fine if my meal's in 4 hours instead of 2. Like, I'll be okay. Which I think is a good thing to teach younger guys and girls, even guys and girls now.
Yeah, unless you're 5.5 weeks out, then you have to eat.
Yeah,
at that
that's
time.
different.
Maybe Ian just didn't want to go shopping. Maybe he was just like, I don't fucking want to go shopping. That sounds terrible.
I mean, dude, that's how I was. I have clients. I have like 23-year-old clients and stuff that like will just randomly hit me up in a panic like state, dude, because they've just taken this so seriously and they're burnt out and they're like, what if I just want to have a meal out with my girlfriend? I'm like, then go fucking do that, dude. I never fucking said you could never do that.
Yeah, like I had
who told you can't do that?
And I was like, what are you worried about? I was like, you're a loser if you take it forward to Thanksgiving. Like, just eat. Like, dude, if you're on a... Sorry, Anthony. if you're... He's in prep. I would tell them now. I would tell them you're in prep.
Loser, Anthony.
No, hold on. I have a story for you. Go.
But regardless, if you're on plan, if you're doing
I have a story
to enjoy,
just eat as much as you want.
You've been on this regimen for so long. You're just consciously going to make healthier options. Like, majority of people will just pick the meats and stuff rather than just go all out. But then some people just go all out. But there's nothing wrong with it.
A lot of the people that go all out, just they've been too regimented and strict for too long, and so then they just lose it,
Yeah. So piggybacking off of that, the first time, well, when I signed up with Ryan, it was like right before Thanksgiving, 2017. So it was like we first started working together, and he gave me my macros and everything. So, but before that, I was on a 6-ounce tilapia, something grams of sweet potato, and something grams of asparagus for 6 months before my show. So 4 meals of tilapia, same thing, and then breakfast was eggs, egg whites, and oatmeal.
And tilapia.
So I was doing that for 6-7 months straight, and then finally I hired Ryan, and he gave me macros, and I brought my scale to Thanksgiving, and my family was like, what are you doing? I'm like, I started a new diet or whatever. But I think a lot of clients, when they first sign up, they think, oh, I'm starting a new diet, and then I have to stay super strict on this, and I can't do anything else that's off. But instead of thinking of it like, okay, I'm making a lifestyle change. So the majority of my meals, the majority of my days, I'm sticking to these macros. But if I want to go out Friday
I
night
think
with
it's
my
fine if
girlfriend,
somebody doesn't
go
want
out
to eat on Thanksgiving.
Like, you should be able to do that
eat
too.
on a holiday.
It's more of a
do that.
lifestyle
Like, that's
change.
cool. If that floats your boat, that's
kind
what
of
gets you
mentality,
going.
then
Go ahead. But there's a difference. You're consciously making that choice, or you feel restricted, regimented against that choice. There's a big difference between the two. You can make the choice to stay on plan, which is completely fine. But if you feel forced, you feel that you're forcing yourself to stay on plan, that is wrong to do, that's where the issue is.
Yeah, like if it gives you anxiety.
I think so. I'm going to answer this question from what's one thing you wish you knew before you started bodybuilding, like being a competitive bodybuilder. And I wish that I knew that it was going to end someday. Like, I wish I knew that one day, like, bodybuilding, for me personally, me competing in bodybuilding, this has nothing to do with coaching, but I wish I knew that, like, my passion for competing myself in bodybuilding was eventually going to run out one day, because I would have enjoyed it a lot more. And I think that a lot of people, when they get into the sport, they think, I'm going to do this forever. And bodybuilding is not a sport that you do forever. So really, really enjoy. I remember, like, looking back on my first prep, I enjoyed my first prep so much. And then I had so much anxiety about every contest prep and every improvement season from that point on. And I just stopped. I just forgot to stop and smell the roses and enjoy the fact that, like, I'm getting to do something that I really love here. Like, this is a super, super enjoyable thing that I'm very passionate about. Don't stress so much about it. Just, like, take a step back and enjoy it, because one day, you know, you're going to want to start a family, or you're going to get a job where you don't have the hours anymore, or you're going to be passionate about some other physical fitness aspect. Like, enjoy it while you're in it, because it's going to be some of the better years of your life, and you're going to look back on it and be like, wow, like, that was a lot of fun. Like, I met a lot of cool people, and I had a lot of fun along the way. That's
the same way I think about, like, wrestling in high school and in college. Like, I took it for granted. I tore my ACL first time, and I was like, holy shit, haven't been on the mat in 8 months. I just want to be back on the mat. And I was kind of like, right beforehand, kind of like, man, wrestling's like, it's just like, it's so tedious, and like, you got to go in and work hard every day and whatever. But like, you tear your ACL, then you come back and you're like, all right, I'm going to make this fucking year the best year of my career, you know? So, and I just kind of like went balls to the wall on that. But, yeah, you take it for granted when you're like suffering in a diet, or you're, you know, working out 2-3 times a day, and people are like, hey, let's do this. And you're like, nah, man, I got to train. Nah, man, I got to, you know, go on a run, you know, that kind of thing. So, but, you know, you lose a lot of friends too when you like shut people out. You're like, I can't do this for like 6 months. I can't go out. You lose a lot of friends that way. But like, the ones who like kind of like support and understand, they'll still be there at the end, but they're like, it's okay, man. Like, we know you were dieting. It's all right. But, you know, like, you don't have to just like ignore my phone calls and texts.
I was probably mad at somebody about something.
Dom, I think you made a post, a story, or you were answering like an AMA or something about. You made some it was about like competing in bodybuilding, and you said something about, you know, like means to an end. Like, I know it's going to come to an end one day. Like, I know I'm not going to be doing this. I'm not going to be competing in bodybuilding forever, so I'm enjoying it or something. And I was like,
Yeah,
you know,
that's something I try to
that's a
tell every
mentality
one of
and
my
a level of
clients.
maturity that I wish
Even the ones that I
had
think
when
will
was
have
22,
good
23
pro
years old.
careers, you know, but like I always tell
Whether
them
they-
it ain't gonna pay any of your bills, bro. No, your $1,000 check you get when you win your show, guess what it paid for? Your
No.
flight
Yeah.
there.
It's gonna be a bill.
You gotta enjoy
Yep.
it, man. You gotta enjoy it, because as you get older, it becomes less and less important. Like, you start to realize what's really important, and you start to realize that no one cares how yoked you are, or what you placed at your last show, or even if you're a pro, you know?
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. I used to, you know, when I would have someone that I think was like super obsessed with like bodybuilding, I'd be like, you like walk down the street and ask the first 10 people that you meet if they know who Mamdou Asselby Big Ramy is, and they'll be like, who the fuck? I think that was I was gonna say something really bad there, but I did not.
Oh yeah.
Ask them if they know who Big Ramy is, and they won't, because bodybuilding is such a small niche. Powerlifting, same thing. Weightlifting, same thing. CrossFit, same thing. Like, people in the real world doing real world shit. Like,
Yeah.
they don't care.
I listened to Dorian talk about it, like, after he retired. Like, this was recent. And he's like, you know, in the grand scheme of things, like, in the whole universe, bodybuilding is like this much of life. There's so much more shit that like there is to worry about. And
I think
things to enjoy.
it's
Like,
I think that
it's like this
is
much. Don't take it so serious.
more
And
directed
then,
towards competitive bodybuilding.
yeah.
I think you can live the lifestyle and do all that for a lot longer than being a
Yeah,
competitive bodybuilder is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But a lot of people try to keep pushing
Yeah.
that
For as
threshold
long
of
as you
staying
want to.
competitive.
Well,
Live
a lot
that
of
lifestyle for
where,
as long as you want.
in my
to.
opinion,
Decades.
I don't believe the stage validates a bodybuilder. I think there is a clear distinction between who likes to bodybuild and who's a competitive bodybuilder. And like, you know, like somebody like Jordan Peters, who is huge. Like, he's the epitome of fucking bodybuilding, but he doesn't compete often. And he doesn't compete because he knows he pushed his body too far, you know, and he just can't achieve a look that he feels presentable to stage, but he still continues to do everything a bodybuilder does, you know. And like James Hollingshed talks about it too, like, you know, like the stage is the end, is just like the cherry on top of his bodybuilding, you know, cake. Like, you don't always need it, but you could still continue to do everything.
Yeah.
How,
I mean,
how much of
you
that do
know-
you think is driven by like bodybuilding gatekeeping and elitism of like the people who actually do compete, and they're like, oh, you're not a full
100%.
bodybuilder unless you get on stage?
100%, dude. Because I started lifting not to compete. I just wanted to be big, right? And so I literally, it took me like a decade before I was like, yeah, I'll do a show. But there were definitely people along the way that were like, yeah, you're getting pretty big. When are you going to put it on stage? When are you going to put it on stage? I'm like, I really enjoy making progress. You know, that's what I love about this is moving forward, getting stronger, getting bigger. Like, it doesn't really like fit into that. That's not helping that, you know? So I probably will compete again, but this is the aspect of competing for me is largely relating to my current career and like just learning more in that aspect and becoming better there. Like, other than that, I have zero like competitive aspirate. Like, if I did not work as a coach, I would never compete.
But you're just a guy that loves you love the training. So like when you got on stage for the first time and everyone was like, oh my God, it's your first time competing. Like, you're so huge, dude. Like, such an advanced physique for a first time competitor. That spoke more to the fact that you had spent so much time like loving training and focusing on the training and much less on the competing, where other people have it flipped. they love the competition and the intention driven around competing. They don't love so much the training, and year after year they look the same, or they end up looking worse. They get then burnt out on the sport, and then they're out.
Well, if you listen to like Lee Priest, he still trains. He only got on stage because it's like, okay, well, I'm lifting all the time. I'm enjoying my training. I might as well do something with it, and let's see what I look like on stage, right? But
insane is what he looked like.
Yeah, and like when I was wrestling, like even when I was done wrestling in college, I still went to the gym every day, just because I felt like I had to work out, like I have to train, and I love the the training aspect of it and pushing yourself. But then it became like, okay, well, I'm going to the gym every day. Like I might as well like show it off. I've gained some muscle. Like I might as well try to compete in something, because I always felt competitive even with wrestling. So it's like if I'm done with wrestling and I don't have anything to compete in, but I'm still going to the gym every day. Like why not do powerlifting, bodybuilding, something else? So
I would agree with that. You have that athletic mindset where you need that competitive outlet.
Well, a lot of people are in it now just because they're like a social media competitor. Like everyone else is competing. I just want to do my first show. I just started training 3 months ago. So I guess this is what I should do. I should get on stage after lifting for 3 months.
Yeah.
Just because that's the cool thing to do. That's the cool thing to do.
I just picked up a basketball for the first time. I'm going to sign up for the local competitive 5-on-5 league or 3-on-3 league, and then you're getting windmill jammed on. You're like, oh, I hate basketball. It's basketball's fault. Well,
it's funny to me because I had a totally different perception. Like I thought bodybuilders look cool. I wanted to look like a bodybuilder. I was like, dude, you're huge, grew up looking up to Arnold Schwarzenegger and stuff, but I didn't start lifting until I was 18 or 19. But when I first started lifting, I was like, yeah, I want to get huge, but no way in fucking hell do I want to stand on a stage with a bunch of people in a thong. I was like, that looks ridiculous. That's stupid. I'm never doing that. That was my first thought.
So you can judge how much someone actually likes training versus bodybuilding by how much they enjoy their posing routine. If people hate the posing routine, that means that there's someone who just loves the training and the performative aspect of bodybuilding.
I don't even pick a song. I would tell the DJ play whatever you want.
I didn't even have a routine.
Anthony's like, oh no, I love my posing routine.
Well,
sometimes there are exceptions to the rule.
It's not even scored, so it's not that it really matters. What I care more about is the mandatory poses. That's where I practice mostly.
I do sort of feel like
that's what gets scored.
I wish I did kind of work on a routine though, because I sure did feel like an asshole during that portion of the that's definitely a video I don't show people.
I think it's like the difference between people that think bodybuilding is an art and then bodybuilding is a sport. So the sport part of it is the training and not just going in, doing a couple sets of 20 and then going in the posing room for 3 hours, that kind of thing. Yeah. You know what I mean? Do your training. If you want to do a little posing routine afterwards, take a couple minutes, but don't spend 3 hours in the posing room and 20 minutes in the gym.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, people can enjoy and think bodybuilding is whatever they think it is. I just like training and getting bigger, dude.
When I won Florida State, there was a lady in the crowd who was she came up to her and she was like, man, I think the judges would score you even higher if you spent more time on your posing routine.
And it's not even judged.
Break it to you, but I spent a grand total of no time on my posing routine. So
you're
maybe
right.
next time around, I'll put 60 seconds into planning it.
Yeah. Unless you're getting a posing award of $10,000 at the Arnold, who cares? Ian Valier is okay, let me see how many most muscular variations I can hit on stage.
Just walking side to side, just
for 3 times, and then I'll hit one back pose and get off the stage.
Dude.
Hey, dude. We should celebrate the fact that Nick Walker can still walk. So he's doing more than we expected.
I saw a video once of Ian Villiers who went on during his posing routine and just hit all the mandatories, like front relax, quarter turn, like just hit his fucking mandatories.
Like a G. All right, folks. That is going to bring us to our conclusion today on this Q&A episode. Everyone that is here right now, guys, take a second to pat yourself on the back. It's the first time in a long time that we have covered 4 total questions. We can all agree that it's because we didn't have Jay here mucking up our time and rambling to no end and making jokes about how he's old and all that stuff. Just kidding, Jay. We'll see you on the next one. We miss you dearly, sir. All our viewers, do the YouTube stuff, like, comment, subscribe. Really helps us grow the channel and reach more people with this fantastic content. We will see you on the next one. We love you, and as always, stay gifted.
Bye.